Welcome everybody. That music was It's Still Not Going to Rain, and the weather looks beautiful today. So welcome everybody who's here, who's watching us on Zoom, or will be looking on Facebook. Just welcome to you all. And I'm now going to light the chalice. And if you're at home and would like to light your own candle, please do so at this time. I will light the chalice when I find a match that works. And our opening words are by Chris Rothbauer. And the title is The Paradox of Ancestry. We gather together this morning because others came before us. Some have left examples for us to follow, others lessons for us to learn from. And the paradox is that many have left both pain and joy. We honour our ancestors this morning, not because they're perfect, but because without them we would not be here together, sharing our joy and our pain. We turn now to a time for prayer. And today's prayer is by the Reverend Diane Rollitt. She's a Unitarian minister in Montreal. So if we just take a few seconds to be quiet. Spirit of life, source of love, may we give thanks for the blessings of our ancestors, inherited and chosen. May we offer up our mistakes and our misgivings as we take responsibility for the burdens they have left us. May we hold on to the light they have granted us, while we move with the clarity that they did not have. May we work in solidarity with those whom their actions may have harmed. May we learn from our own accomplishments and mistakes, as much as we learn from others. May we join with those who love all the earth's relations and generations. May we open the space for each spirit to find its way home. May we work toward meaningful connection. May we never give up trying. Amen. We now have our hymn, which is from the Purple Book 147, Spirit of Life. And people on Zoom, whoever you are, you can sing as loud as you like. And here, it would be nice you can hum, because I've just found out that humming is very good for your throat and your muscles in your throat. So please hum. So 147, and the first words of the first verse. Spirit of life, source of love. Oh, I've read the prayer again, I'm so sorry. Spirit of earth, root, stone and tree, water of life flowing in me, keeping me stable, nourishing me, oh, fill me with living energy.
Water of life.
Now, as is usual, we have a story, and this is called The Farmer's Legacy. Once there was a farmer. He was very old and very ill, and he knew he would die soon, but he'd lived a very good life, and his only regret was that his 3 children just kept fighting amongst each other. All the time, they fought and they fought and they fought. None of them seemed interested in taking care of the large farm the old man had established. And they were really rather lazy. The farm was big enough for several farmhouses and produced enough food to easily provide for any families his children may someday start. The only reason the old farmer had worked so hard his entire life was to leave a legacy to his children, so their life would be easier. Now that his life was near its end, he wanted to find some way to see what a precious thing it is to be able to work your own land and provide for your own family. So he did. One winter day, the old farmer called his children to his sickbed. "My children, I have accumulated great wealth." "Where is your great wealth?" they asked. "You've never seen it. It exists deep in the fields. This is where you will find your legacy." A short time later, the farmer died. His children grieved because they loved their father. Their sadness brought them together and they stopped fighting. But one day they decided to go looking for their legacy. He said, it's buried deep in the fields. It must be buried there. We just need to dig for it." So they dug and dug for days. They dug until they had dug up almost all the farmland, but they found nothing. One sibling said, "We've dug up all this land, but we haven't found our legacy. We must have missed it, but I'm just too tired to keep digging. Still, it's springtime and it's time to plant crops. Since we have already dug up the earth, we might as well plant this field." So they did. Fall came, and after harvesting their crops, they set to digging again, looking again for their legacy. They dug and dug for days. They dug until once again they had dug up most of the farmland, but still they found nothing. "Oh," one sibling said, "we've dug up all this land, but we still haven't found our legacy. We must have missed it, and I'm too tired to keep digging. Still, we might as well plant like we did last year." So they did. Yet again fall came, they harvested their crops, and this year's harvest was even bigger than the years before. After the harvest, they dug again, and not finding it again, they planted their crops. This went on for a good few years, during which time they got married, had families, lived comfortably from selling their crops. They got strong from working the fields, and they were no longer lazy. They were healthy and happy. But one spring, they all 3 realized that the rich land of the farm and being able to provide for themselves was actually the true legacy their father had left them. They stopped digging for treasure. They started working the farm, happy that their father had been wise enough to leave this great gift. They decided they would all share the land and take good care of it, so that they could leave it to their children someday. And so they did. Now, our ancestors don't really just have to be family members. I think they can be people that have inspired you. And I've asked Sandra to do a reading, and I thought, I've had it on my fridge for ages and ages. And it's got Nelson Mandela at the bottom of the reading. And so I just assumed, wrongly so it seems, that it was written by Nelson Mandela for part of his inaugural speech. But actually, I found out yesterday through Sandra that it wasn't. But it's actually from the book Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. But I still feel Nelson Mandela is an inspiration, or was an inspiration to me, and I think this is probably what he would have said anyway. So that's what I'm going with. So Sandra will do the reading. Thank you, Sandra.
So he didn't say it, but he would have liked to. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Thank you, Sandra. And I think the words, we need to think more about those words, because we've all been given special gifts and we need to use them, I think. That's just my thinking anyway. We now come to the time for candles of concern or joy. And if you'd like to come up and light a candle and say something, or maybe not say anything. We're also, if you're at home or on Zoom, well, if you're at home watching this on Zoom, you can light a candle too. We'll take what you say a bit later. So if you'd like to come up and light a candle, please do.
This is in gratitude for all the people of this community and those that came before us so that we can be here today enjoying our free religious faith. So I thank all the generations of Unitarians that worshipped here.
I light that candle for all of our ancestors, some of whom must have had incredibly hard lives, but somehow managed to survive and reproduce and give us the gift of life now.
I like that candle, memory of my mother's parents. We brought up a huge family, always found room for one more, and we all needed a roof over our heads, and taught me that I'm as good as anybody, but I'm better than nobody.
I'd like that candle to remember that it's Black History Month, and for some people looking back on their ancestry is an issue of pain, and so that in some ways I think there are still barriers within ourselves from our learning, which stops us always realising that we're all one people.
Now, this is a piece of weaving, and it's not a very big piece of weaving, but my friend Catherine and I went to a weaving course last year, and that small piece took us half a day to do on the loom. But I've always been interested in weaving and textiles, and recently I found out that on my mother's side, my ancestors go back to the Huguenots, and they actually came and settled in the East End of London, some of them, in Spitalfields. And they were all weavers. So I wonder if subconsciously this has come through to me. But I'm very pleased if it has. Also, although there'd been lots of immigrants before that time, that was the first time the word immigrants was used. So for me, I've been thinking a lot about ancestors, immigrants, and today, although it's National Chocolate Day, it's also Anti-Trafficking Day. And we all know there's a lot of slavery going on at this time. So, where do I go from here? It's just been really interesting just thinking about everything and about who are my ancestors, what have they left me. I don't know, maybe you think about yours. I particularly liked what Christine said when she lit the candle, and Jill, well, all of you really. But who are our ancestors? What can we learn from them? I don't think our ancestors just have to be family. They can be people who have inspired us. Remember, we are all interconnected, and as I've said in a previous service, we all have the divine's DNA within us. What are legacies? As we have seen from our story, they don't have to be property, money, or things. A legacy can just be something we have learned from someone in the past. They may have led a good life, perhaps helped people, or just been nice, kind people, and they probably wouldn't even realise they'd left a legacy, but we may want to try to be like them. Or we may have had a relative who was really cold and couldn't show affection, and we might try to be the opposite of that. I do believe, though, that each person who has lived their lives on this earth is given lessons to teach and lessons to learn, in the hope that the next generation will be better towards each other and towards the earth. This may take a long time, but as in the opening words, we must not stop trying. Knowing about our ancestors helps us to choose our path, also recognising who they had been and what they meant keeps them alive in our hearts. I also thought about our faith ancestors, our Unitarian spiritual ancestors. What have they taught us? Two of my favourites are Charles Dickens and Margaret Fuller. Charles Dickens wrote about poverty and hardship. And what can we take from that legacy? We can take that we must try really harder to look after people that don't have as much as we do, to take some action to right wrongs and to stand up for those people. Margaret Fuller I find very interesting because she was born into a Unitarian family and she became a journalist for the New York Tribune. She was sent to London to become a literary correspondent, but that wasn't what she wanted. And she was passionate about the Italian Revolution, so she actually went to Italy and covered that. And before she covered that, soldiers used to actually write about wars, and they just wrote about strategies, plans, things like that. And she actually wrote about the human element of war. And she became the very, very first war correspondent. So what have I taken from her life? And maybe you could take some. That women and men are strong, powerful, and can achieve dreams, even small dreams. I actually close with these words from Unitarian Universalist minister Joshua Powellek. I believe it is a sign of spiritual health when we practice remembering and honouring those upon whose shoulders we rest. I believe it is a path to spiritual wisdom when we seek to know our ancestors' stories. What obstacles did they face? If they were enslaved, how did they achieve liberation? If they wandered in the wilderness, how did they survive? What was their relationship to the Most Holy? For what were they thankful? What did they pass on to us? As we now know often more clearly who our ancestors were, we know more clearly who we are. And as we know more clearly who we are, we make ourselves ready to face the challenges of our time. So let's listen and honour our ancestors, whether they were ones we were born into, maybe adopted into, or just inspired us. And finally, a Yoruba proverb. If we stand tall, it is because we stand on the backs of those who came before us. I think there's quite a bit to think about. Thank you. I'll close in words. Let us go in peace, to live together in harmony, to see beauty in everything, to know wonder in each passing moment, and to walk humbly with our God.